Hello! Oh, we just cut the music off, but that's fine, we don't have any here. Hello, gamers,
Hey!
gentle gamers, non-gamers, I think that covers everyone. So, this here is, I'm hoping, the first of a few things called Chat Over Tea, where I talk to someone, and we both have tea. That's the bit, that's the shtick, that's the whole
That's a
unique
good
twist
bit.
on this. Yeah, isn't it just?
I actually, I have a question regarding tea.
Do you now?
So, I am not skilled in the British ways of making tea, so I wanted to know if I did this correctly.
Okay.
So first of all, I have myself some mango peach tea.
Right, okay.
The way I did it is I put the baggie in there, the tea bag. I poured the water over it, like
Yep.
drawing it over it, tracing it. And then I got a spoon and then like poked at the bag a little bit and then stirred.
Right.
I don't know if that's like proper procedure or not.
I think that's fine enough. My parents will tell you absolutely not, that's evil. Because the right way to do it is to leave it to brew. Let it just naturally come out over about 3 minutes. But frankly, let it stir a bit. Though Mike Taylor says as soon as there is mango or peach, there is no tea. Because the only true tea comes from tea leaves, from tea bags. Yeah. First light, oh thank you.
Enough.
How did you heat the water, Poki asks.
Electric kettle.
Yep, that works. Milk first, always first. There are wrong answers, that's one of them.
Oh, I didn't even put milk in mine. I just did straight
Yeah, it's a
tea.
herbal tea. You don't put milk in herbal tea.
Unless you're drinking like boba or
So,
something.
I realise we are missing a bit of intro. Not everyone here knows you. So, you should know me. I'm Moot T. Hello, I run the channel. I'm this guy. I haven't streamed in ages because I found work and then exploded. But you, introduce yourself. Who are you? What's your deal?
Yeah, so I'm Otrill, Mr. Otrill Hawk. I am a dear friend, I would hope, of Mr. Moot here. Been like I believe we met via Dungeons and Dragons, just kind of doing that kind of stuff. I have done that like perma dungeon mastering for I want to say like 5 or 6 years now. I also do some other stuff on the side. I do like random little YouTube like videos, just mostly like little weird jokes or something like that.
Oh, he has a channel. I haven't even linked it.
Oh no, I didn't even think about that, quite honestly. Yeah, and I am gonna start trying to like stream and stuff soon. I'm waiting on some assets to be made. I believe the person who is working on those is in the audience. Looking at you right now. Not gonna say names. Um, but yeah, I'm mainly just here to talk about a game and a franchise I think you hold very dear to your heart.
Absolutely. I will get into that, but just first, Mike Taylor asks, is Ultrahawk your real name or a super cool D&D name?
So, really funny you mentioned that, Mike. When I was setting up my first like Steam account, you know, I think my friend wanted to play like Team Fortress 2 with me or something like that, and I could not think of a name, and I had to sit there for like an hour trying to think of something. And I reverted to what was my first like D&D character, like my first real like OC Do Not Steal, which was a wizard named Otrill, who was like, I think I had to be like 12 at the time. I made the character, so of course in my mind he was like 6 feet tall because I was like not 6 feet tall. He had really long, dark black hair, and he had a big raven that sat on his shoulder. And I'm pretty sure he carried around a katana. So just like the peak max amount of edge I could make at that time. And I just ended up really liking the name, so it stuck around through the years.
There we go. Yep. And Moot T, I wasn't always called Moot online. For a while I went by Phasey. But that was a name I stole from a friend. And Moot was in fact a nickname that I had in school. Don't worry, they didn't think I was useless. It was a play on Toot and Kroot. And I like that a lot, so just stuck with it. Right, so here's the actual topic. Sonic the Hedgehog. I guess I'll open since I'm kind of the one who really loves the guy for really no reason, but I really do. So, I am someone who has grown up with Sonic. I am going to do like a full-on semi-emotional YouTube video about that at some point when I find the time.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to that.
Oh, lovely. I can't wait to make it. But one of the things I'll say in there is that one of my first like video game related memories at all is of the computer, our shared family computer, and being sat in front of it and watching my brother play Sonic, which my dad installed on there. And, you know, I didn't know at the time that it was an emulator running a ROM because I didn't think like that. There was a blue cool guy in my computer and he ran around. Yeah. So then there was another game that was like Sonic, but more colourful and more silly looking. So we called that Funny Sonic. Growing up a bit, I learned that was in fact Sonic 2. But yeah,
Funny Sonic.
But I can literally
That's adorable.
trace, isn't it just? I can literally trace my memories of Sonic from like my earliest childhood to now. Like there is always something Sonic related there. So no matter how good or bad Sonic gets, no matter how high or low the ups and downs get, just because of growing up with this little blue dumbass, I won't ever stop loving him. And so for me,
does the rest of your family like share your?
Oh no, not at all.
I mean, Sonic.
They like Sonic. My mum sings the music from the obscure spin-off Sonic R because we had that on a CD and it is absolutely banging.
That's
like,
awesome.
They all have a connection to him, and they've all known the guy for a long time. But no one in my family is like obsessed with him in the way that I am.
It was just kind of like, oh, this is a neat thing, and then you kept doing it.
I latched on, man. I latched on.
Hell yeah.
Sorry. Mike Taylor says he loved Sonic before I was even born, and still does. That's true, but you weren't looking up, like, information leaks on the upcoming Sonic game by the time the title had been revealed. Okay?
He went down the rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. I went down the rabbit hole. You might like Sonic, but I'm a Sonic fan.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I think, in my experience, that's exactly how every like the Sonic fans are. Is that they're like very feverishly for Sonic.
Oh yeah,
which...
we haven't had a single Sonic game without like important information being leaked about it before it came out, like full playthroughs and things.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me. Leading up to Sonic Frontiers, I've just been, you know, it's been 5 years since we had a Sonic game. The previous one was kind of rubbish, so everything in me was saying, oh my goodness, this could be it. Please be good, please be good, please be good. And so when I came into this game, I was so excited, but also at the same time very scared, and had a lot of emotion riding on it while going in there. So that's me and what Sonic is to me. Yeah.
Okay, so...
Yeah, what about you?
So I'm not ignorant of Sonic the Hedgehog. I realized as I was kind of getting prepared to talk about this with you, I have actually played more Sonic games than I thought I have.
Yeah,
But
going
I
in, I
would
thought you just
definitely,
hadn't played, but no.
yeah, no. I've even played Sonic Pinball, which is like I feel like that's some type of rite of passage. I don't know what, but so the of the Sonic games I have played, it's just been kind of random. I had a like an emulator disc also. It's oh, that's a funny connection. I didn't even think about that till now.
Hmm.
It was like an official. I don't know. It was somebody's like a crazy arcade disc for some console I had when I was a kid. It had Sonic, the original Sonic on it. It had Sonic and Knuckles. I think it had Sonic 2.
Funny Sonic.
I have a vague memory of playing Sonic Adventure on a friend's GameCube, which I think that's the one with all like the chaos goo thing. I
Yeah, that's
believe.
the one with Chaos, the giant water monster.
Excellent, yes. And then I definitely had Sonic Heroes. I played a lot of Sonic Heroes as a kid. The theme sticks out in my head still. The Sonic
It's a
Heroes, like
good
that.
theme. It's a joy.
Yeah, their music's very chipper. And then of course, I don't think I had. I remember walking into a GameStop at one point and seeing Shadow the Hedgehog and be like, "This looks amazing," but my mom was like, "No, we're not buying you a
It
game."
was
So I never
Sonic with a
actually-
gun! It was
That's
so cool.
exactly why I wanted to play it. I saw Shadow with the gun. I was like, "Oh my god!" But no, my mom was like, "No, you can't get that. You can play. You can get grabbed by the Ghoulies," which also turned out to be a good game.
Nice. You probably won that one.
No, I didn't because
Oh.
I couldn't read too well, and the game had a lot of like written directions that I didn't understand. So prior to Sonic Frontiers, I have not played a Sonic game since Sonic Heroes. I have never really understood the, I guess the mad appreciation that is for it, that like people like yourself hold for it. I think they were fun when I played them a lot as a kid and everything. So I didn't really go into Frontiers having any type of really expectations other than just seeing all of the like really bad Sonic games that have come out over the past like decade or so, with the exclusion of like Sonic Mania, I think. So I went into this with a lot more, how shall I say, a need to be impressed because I haven't played one in forever, and I went into it being a little bit more cynical than you did.
Mm-hmm. Just quickly as well, Mike is mentioning, also, it's the Sonic themes that everyone remembers. Even Pocky's mentioning an MV of Sonic Unleashed with a Skillet by Monster by Skillet playing in the background. Mike's on about the theme song from the Sonic Saturday morning cartoon. It's always music that people come back to for this.
Oh, I forgot about the cartoon.
Which the cartoon?
I watched it. Oh my god, what channel did that play on? It played on like some Fox Kids thing. Oh, I do not remember what it was at all, so that's not going to be really helpful.
Do you remember anything that happens in it?
There's a blue hedgehog. He runs up a tree at some point during the opening cinematic.
Oh, that is the Saturday morning cartoon. That's Saturday.
But to the point of music, though, I do remember. Everyone knows what is it? Where like Sonic's like running down like the hill in like San Francisco or something. The truck's behind him.
Oh,
like,
that's Adventure 2.
Yeah,
Yep.
Adventure 2. Okay, I know that one.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Then why don't you start with like Sonic Frontiers? Because you sent me a basic schedule, I guess, almost. What's the word? Itinerary?
Yeah, just like talking points, basically.
Right, talking
like,
points.
to kind of keep things flowing, because as it turns out, people have to prepare for
It's
interviews.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't just get into a call and just be like, "Hey, what's up?" No, you have to actually plan it out like a little bit, I guess.
Ooh, Sonic X from
So-
4Kids. Sorry, I'm interrupting again.
Yeah, 4Kids. Thank you. No. Actually, thank you for doing that. That was gonna drive me insane if I couldn't remember what it was, but I wasn't gonna say anything about it.
Yeah, that was like, I think the first Sonic cartoon I watched. We only had like 4 episodes on DVD. And little kid me didn't realize how like really annoying all the characters were, so I put that stuff on loop.
Oh god. Probably was like your household's version of what's that cartoon that's really popular right now with like the dog? Paw Patrol. It's probably like your family's version of like Paw Patrol
right.
or something. In regards to, so what, you would just want to do like initial thoughts first of the game?
Yeah. You know, we've both played it. We've shared some thoughts now, but while playing it, we had zero communication between each other.
Yeah, we very deliberately we had messages going back and forth. They're like, "Oh my god, I really want to talk to you about this." Oh, but we can't. Oh, but we can't. We must
Yeah.
save it. We must save
Oh,
it for
I've
the
hit this
stream.
part of the game and I have thoughts.
I have thoughts that must be shared. No, so not to drown this positive energy. My overall impressions of Frontiers was that it was really inconsistent. At every point when I kind of felt like I was getting into it, something would change or something would happen that would throw me off the beat I was getting on. So inconsistency is sort of the name of the game for me in regards to Sonic Frontiers. I got really frustrated at a lot of different parts. I will talk about one part specifically when we get to it. But yeah, just I found the whole experience to be very pleasant at parts. Sometimes the inconsistency was unexpected in a very positive way, but I really could not get into it. I would say is kind of my overall impression due to inconsistency.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the point you're making. Obviously, my opinion coming out of it is different, but I do agree that the most defining thing about it is the inconsistency. It's got very high highs and very low lows and almost nothing in between. While playing that game, I was either, having a great time and laughing to myself and going, "Oh, that's so cool," or just, wanting to punch my screen.
Oh, okay. That actually makes me feel a little bit less like a curmudgeon because
No,
I
no, no.
was like, oh man, I just can't enjoy things, I guess.
See, the difference is we played the same game. The difference is that seeing a little blue guy run first makes me happy.
Let's see here. Do we want to take a question real quick or just jump straight into
Yeah,
a
sure.
different
Name one
point?
of the low lows I assume you're looking at.
I mean, I'll just get straight to the worst section in the entire game, which is the pinball section, which oh my god, the pinball section. Like I got so mad at the pinball session, I had to get up. There's a section in the game where you move through a part of the story. The game just really inconsistently will throw random objectives in front of you and say it's part of the story. Oh, that's another thing I have to talk about at some point.
We'll get
But you
there.
just randomly get thrown into a pinball section, and it is quite possibly, dare I say, the worst pinball minigame section in a video game that has ever been made. And again, I have played Sonic Pinball, and I liked that, and I thought it was fun.
Ooh.
It's it's so bad. It's not even real pinball. I don't know what they did with the game engine to simulate pinball, but it doesn't work. It makes,
Right.
oh, okay, that's my low.
My low point was also the pinball. But I
Thank
played
God.
Sonic Spinball and hated it. Now I was playing it under very special circumstances that might talk about later in another video. But basically, I was unable to have a continuous thought while playing that game. And so it was hell. And so when I got to a pinball section in a Sonic game again, I felt my soul sink before I'd even started. And then it came up and it says you flip a flipper and you touch some rings and you get 10 points and it says now get 5 million.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a modifier I think that goes up as you do it, so it doesn't take as long as you think. But it's still 6 or 7 minutes of just pinball.
In the end, it is pinball. It is it isn't one-to-one pinball, but it is a game that is very chance-based and extremely punishing whenever you do something wrong.
Yeah, it would help if there was actual physics in there instead of just whatever they were doing. I swear, they just.
I will, however,
okay, nope.
forgive its inclusion in itself because Sonic has always had an affinity for pinball, and most games in the Sonic line have had some sort of casino level, often with a pinball minigame in there.
Yep.
I won't forgive that
That
it's
is true.
done really, really badly.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was a check mark. It was yep, here's pinball. There you go.
A lot of the game
Laugh.
is that. It's, it's shaped like... Actually, no, we'll do it. Yeah, let's start with Open Zone World, because it flows more easily.
Yeah, that was one of the big selling points of the game. I have so many thoughts on this quote-unquote open zoneness, but you go first so we can... I went first last time, so you go first now.
So context first, I'm sure there's someone here who hasn't seen much of Sonic Frontiers. Most Sonic games, you start the game, you play the levels, you get to the last level, you beat it, you win. Sonic Frontiers is open world. Sorry, it is open zone.
Open zone.
Open zone. The developers were very clear to make this distinction, or at least the PR people were. I imagine the developers called it open world.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. In which now instead of a load of levels, you had a small number of very large open areas, which contained essentially like a jungle gym of obstacles and enemies and collectibles and everything all over there. So the game would now be structured: you run around these, you fight little mini bosses, and then you play little tiny levels, and then you collect the Chaos Emeralds. And once you got all of them, you fight a big boss, and you move on to the next one. That's the structure. And let's see, overall impressions. They really tried. God, that's such a negative way of saying it, but
I mean, I would say that I hated it, so I think that's slightly more positive than
Okay.
what I would have to say about it.
Right. I think that there were moments where I really enjoyed it. There were moments where I hit one thing and it sent me immediately careening into another piece of platforming, and I'd jump from one bit to another, and there would be a genuine feeling of like keeping that speed and up. And I know that it's now a curse word in the Sonic fandom, but there was a feeling of momentum, even if it wasn't literally gravity make thing faster, and then it kept going.
Can we park there for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean that's a curse word in the Sonic
Sorry,
fandom?
yeah, no, I just took that as a given. Sonic games recently have not used momentum. Like, maybe they've had them, but they've been, like, absent from the game design. So, in the previous games, it's all hold X to boost, and when you boost, you go very, very fast. The old classic games, a lot of people love them because of how loose and physicsy they felt, right? You run down a slope, you go very fast. You hit a ramp, you go flying. And that's a thing a lot of people really love about Sonic, me included. And so when a lot of the new games just kind of don't have that at all, that lack of momentum really, it gets to people. But that's become such a talking point that enough people get mad about that now they've created their own like counterculture where people say, "Oh my god, shut up about momentum. Sonic goes fast."
Oh my god.
And it's the most like terminally online thing you could possibly see, but you know, everyone grew up with a different Sonic game. No Sonic game is similar to another one beyond like a, and so everyone has a different idea of what Sonic should be. And so momentum is one of the like biggest points of that. And so with Sonic Frontiers, there are things that make use of this momentum, but it really isn't even close to integral to how the game feels. There's none of that hit a high point, run down, feel the thrill, jump off a ramp, none of that stuff.
Huh.
You don't feel like a bull rolling around, even though Sonic's bit originally was he curls up into a bull and rolls around.
I will say there was one point where I was messing with like, I guess the momentum of the game, and I found out I could slide up a hill if I just like slightly held the analog stick like the wrong direction, and then I would like slide up backward. I don't know, it was really weird.
I think I know the one you're about.
So I feel like we got off the open zone thing for a second there, and that's my fault because I derailed us.
No, that's fine.
You said you thought that they tried.
I think that they did the best they can with this idea, or at least, no, they didn't do the best they can, but they did take it in the best direction they could for what they're trying to do. They made a Sonic that is, you're in a lot more control than in previous recent Sonic games of him in the open world. I'll get to that later. But in that place, they have basically built it to encourage you to run around and just mess about with the stage shapes and the geometry. And but with this size and with this freedom means that they have to absolutely fill it with level design, which means that that design has to be cheap to make. No doubt you will have noticed the constant reuse of the same stock platform assets, which have absolutely zero effort to... Yeah, that's the main thing people complain about before it even came out, right? So this game it's got these realistic, quite beautiful environments full of rails floating in the sky connected to nothing and game platforms, and ugh. It doesn't look good and it feels sterile.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was the open zone gameplay was like, hey, here's this big grassy open area. You can go wherever you want, but also you immediately can't. Like, I thought, okay, open world gameplay, I can go kind of wherever I want. And instead it's more of like, actually, no, it's more like you just, I guess the open zone thing. You run around your backyard, pick up whatever like keys you need to advance the next story point, and then that's actually what ends up mattering.
Right.
And it feels like at first I thought they were gonna do a thing where they were gonna introduce mechanics and then via the objective things on the map, And I was like,
Right,
oh,
yeah.
that's cool. They're teaching you how to like boost or whatever by getting in this little hamster wheel and like boosting really fast. I was like, okay, like ignoring the fact that the game spammed me with tutorials, so I know how everything works. This is kind of cool. And then I started noticing all those like little side objectives were just kind of ad nauseum, like you said, littered around the map,
Hmm.
and weren't really teaching me anything
No, they're baby
necessarily.
puzzles.
Yeah, they're basically just like it just felt like it was doing a chore after a while, and I was like, okay, so it's it's an open zone, but the zone isn't very interesting. And then what also threw me off a little bit too is the game initially leads you to believe that to advance to the next area, you need to do all these little like side puzzles
Hmm.
to get, I think you have to get the side puzzles and then you have to use those to unlock the levels and then do the levels and then proceed from there. What ends up happening though is you don't have to kind of do those. You can just like abuse certain little mechanics to get however many zone items you need. And then it ends up being the story side mission that actually gives you the advancements you need to like progress the game. Like
Right.
so again that inconsistency where it's like, "Oh, okay, so I got all the side objectives. Now I'm going to go do the story for Amy." And then I do Amy's quest and I'm like, "Why am I in a mini game for Amy's quest?" And then Amy's quest gives me like a chaos emerald or something. And I'm like, "What? I didn't know that was going to happen."
Right. I
And then
think in the end, unlocking those emeralds was bottlenecked by both getting those keys and story progression with the characters, wasn't it?
yeah, it's tied up in a way, but it just not in a way that like was consistent every time, and it bugged. Or rather, it was consistent once you got through it the first time, but you're like, "Oh, I understand how this works," and then it goes, "Nope, no, you don't. Sorry, it actually is like this. It's a lot more linear than you think it was supposed to be." And yeah, no, I didn't really appreciate that aspect of it. Also, since we're talking about open zone
Hmm.
gameplay, can we talk about the fact that this game just constantly reminded me of like Breath of the Wild? And every time it reminded me of Breath of the Wild, I was just like, I wish I was playing Breath of the Wild right now. Like it's the same aesthetic where it's like old technology and rocks. I don't know what it is with like big game studios right now, but if you want to do precursor technology, it's like put a blue right what I might
You
having
can
a
try
stroke.
again.
Excuse me.
Hmm.
A blue light in a rock, and then that's precursor technology. Like it's even got like the same music and everything else. It just constantly
Right.
was reminding me of like a Zelda game, and I was confused as to why that was the aesthetic.
I will defend the use of music in the open areas. I do think that has more uniqueness to it. I found a lot of that to be quite kind of beautiful. Some of it's gone on playlists, but I do also, yeah, it very much visually, it says it's Breath of the Wild, but it's not. And I think that's let a lot of people down. Partly because either it's ripping off Breath of the Wild or it's telling you it's going to be one of the best open world games there is and then just isn't that. What I do think, though, when I played that, I'm just going to not defend, I'm going to relate this game to another different game that does the same thing it does, but better. Mechanically, I think it's a lot more like Mario Odyssey, right? You go between these large open levels, go around completing little things, collecting as many MacGuffins as you can before you're able to move on to the next one. Uh, it's structured more like Mario Odyssey, even if it looks
Mm-hmm.
like Breath of the Wild. But I guess
So have you played Mario Odyssey? Because I haven't.
I have. Yeah.
So
A friend
is
lent me a Switch for it.
okay. So I would say that that is, and also to Mike's question, I am not letting my tea go cold. I have been sipping it in between questions, but
I
thank you for
finished
checking
it.
in on that. Um, is there a thing in Mario Odyssey where, like, abruptly when you reach the end of a world stage, where you kind of just have to get shoehorned into whatever is happening? Or is it just like, hey, you collected all the moons or stars and now you just go to the next level?
Kinda. Half and half. So, I mean, there are. I mean, actually, no. You can totally just collect lots of moons and then power up your ship and hop to the next kingdom. But on the
Mm-hmm.
way, there will often be, once you make a certain thing happen, then there's a boss fight that you're sort of, stuck in until you finish it. At certain points in the story, there are just boss fights that you have
Mm-hmm.
certain story points. I do think it ends up being more open than Sonic Frontiers because it doesn't have the thing where every world has a linear quest line where you collect MacGuffins and then talk to the character. It doesn't have that bit. It is The progression is basically entirely exploring, collecting MacGuffins, and then heading to the next place.
And then it has all that emphasis on like actually exploring the level
It
and
really
whatnot, like
does.
doing
Yeah.
all like the pushing the limits of what the character can do, which I don't think that this game does very well.
No, it
It's
doesn't.
like, okay, you get on the roller coaster. I describe the open world gameplay of this as basically you go to like Disneyland or something, which is a theme park. You can go in any order,
Yeah.
theoretically, that you want. But Sonic Frontiers is making you almost ride the rides in enough of an order where it's like, well, this doesn't really feel as free as it's supposed to feel. You notice that a lot, like if you hit like any of these little, I don't, what do you call the little, like, the things out in the open world that are like their own little structures you can do to complete and get like the items and stuff. Those, I don't know if they have a name
Little
or not.
bits of level design, I guess.
Yeah, just the random level design they have everywhere. I ran into an issue a lot of times where I wanted to go backtrack somewhere, but all the ramps only point one directions. So it was like, oh, how do I like get around this roller coaster to go back and get the item that I missed? So I
Oh
was
no,
just
that's
like,
true. I specifically remember in Chaos Island, that's the volcano one. Genuinely just spending my time avoiding any of like level bits because they'll immediately stick you into. Do you remember it was full of 2D sections? As soon as you hit a ramp or a spring or anything, you're stuck in a 2D section, and half the time you can't get out unless you finish it.
yeah, it's such.
They laid
I
traps
feel
for you.
like it really does. Like there would be sometimes where I would just be trying to do like a stunt or something, and I'd hit a ramp by accident and then get sent like halfway across the map, and I'd be like, nope, that's not where I wanted to
Uh
go.
huh.
It's a you go to the ride, and then the ride sends you wherever the ride wants to take you, and then after that you have to
Yeah.
kind of like be
You
like,
can
oh
pick
shoot,
which ride
this
you
isn't
go
where I want it
to,
to be.
but you can't control the ride.
Yeah.
So,
So
final thing on Mario Odyssey, if that's all right,
yeah.
comparing the two, is in that sort of design difference. Mario Odyssey, it like hides little collectibles and coins that you don't need. It hides them in those nooks and crannies where no player would really think to go and probably
Hmm.
couldn't get there. But if you do, somehow bounce off a wall and throw your hat and do a series of impossible moves and then land on top of this building, there's a little stack of coins there, because Nintendo
Hmm.
knows that it's just about possible and wants to reward you for pushing its limits. Sonic Frontiers puts an invisible wall there.
Yeah, or they do the thing, and this might be a decent segue to move into a different topic. I don't know,
Oh, sure, yeah, I did.
but they do the thing where they go, "You cannot access this area yet." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
The
Because at
real funny
least
thing
like,
is, I didn't
uh,
run into that while I was playing, so I heard people complain about it and just didn't know what they were on about.
so you probably went on what I would call the intended
Mm,
track, as
for sure.
most games have. I would argue an open world game really should not have that, but you probably did what the devs thought, where they'd be like, "Oh, they'll go here, and then they'll go here, and then they'll get this, and then this will
Hmm.
just be unlocked for them." I did not do that because I was having a lot of impatience with certain things. So I was like, "Well, I'll just explore and kind of see what I can do." And I ran into like several times. I'm like, "Oh,
Ooh.
what's this weird looking puzzle?" Which I don't understand why there's puzzles in this game either. But whatever. That's a different point. And it would just go, "You cannot do this yet. The story has not gotten here. Come back.
Wait, no, I
Open
know the ones you're
zone
on about.
gameplay."
Yeah, it'd be like the puzzles with the little chains on them.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah,
like you don't have enough of these things to
right.
go
And then
do
once you've
that.
talked to Tails in the volcano, suddenly this like random computer terminal unlocks, and yeah, that is just bad. But
Let's see. Urban said Sonic Frontiers makes the player feel like they are playing through a roller coaster tycoon level made by an evil 12-year-old. Sometimes fun, but a lot of times forced and boring. Yeah, I like the word of forced there,
hmm,
where it's just like, here's this giant environment that we have that is I would say pretty in some parts. Uh,
it's our
art
background.
direction, not bad. But yeah, then it's just like, and then we just put a bunch of stuff in between where you want to go and where you are, and level design. And it's like, oh, okay, well, this
Hmm.
doesn't really feel that inspired, I guess. Um,
I get
yeah.
that. It's having an open world. It tells you that you've got absolute freedom, and so as soon as you actually don't have absolute freedom, then it becomes an issue. If it's a series of linear levels, you don't mind not having that because you're not expecting it.
So actually, I've changed my segue mind,
Oh,
perhaps
okay,
here.
okay.
You said levels, and then that kind of got me
Oh, do
thinking
we want
about
to go on
levels.
to the levels?
I think we should go straight to levels because I think you and I actually have diametrically opposed views on the levels.
Do we? Okay. Do you want to go first then? Because I thought you'd have the same opinion
Shh.
as me.
Well, so I had thought I had heard you say in passing
Mm,
that you actually in the Sonic community didn't really like the levels too much. They were kind of more of my preferred part of the game.
I see. Okay.
I thought they were janky sometimes, but I liked the levels a lot more than I liked the open world. Just
Mm,
because the open world, I was constantly like, oh my God, like, why is this here? Why is that here? Like, I don't understand this. And then I'd get into a level, and even if the level was like janky or it would do things I didn't like suddenly changing the camera angle, which like the first time you're playing through a level, like is a little jarring,
oh,
but
right. If
when
you
you
don't
repeat
expect
it,
that,
it's
that is
fine.
going to be. Ugh.
Uh-huh. But, the levels generally had like music I didn't mind, even sometimes liked, and it was fun to actually like use the mechanics of Sonic and push them to try to complete the level as fast as I could. That actually was fun. I did enjoy that a lot. So, out of the open zone or levels, I preferred the levels.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I don't disagree with what you said there. Okay, yeah. So the levels,
Play it
they
on a Wii Fit board.
they do encourage you to play, take advantage of Sonic to do it as fast as possible, and that's Sonic's bit. Try to go fast. Um, I found that I think maybe I'm spoiled, maybe because that is what Sonic normally does very well with its levels, but in this game they felt just disposable. That's the one word description I'd have for them. Is I didn't dislike the music. I really like some of the tracks as you do, but I felt that a lot of them listening through, a lot of them feel very, very stock. And nothing's more stock than all of the level themes being
You're
three
talking about the
recurring.
music right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, I actually know when I said themes there, I meant the visual look of them. Um, is that I'm going into this
Oh.
level and I'm seeing, 4 zones, 3 of which are recycled, literally recycled assets from previous games, and one of
Oh
which is a
wow, Green
generic
Hill
city.
Zone.
Fans cringe when they see Green Hill Zone at this point because, the opening level to the first game is not the only thing that your game is, but ah. But I also feel the same about the level layouts themselves, is they're fine. You might not have known this because you haven't played a lot of previous games, but
Mm-hmm.
almost every level layout was from a previous Sonic game. And
Oh,
the
no, I did
justification,
not know that.
yeah, the justification is, oh, well, it's Sonic's memories, isn't it? But these levels
Oh,
are Sonic's. Yeah, yeah, right, right.
whatever.
The thing is, and they are fine in isolation by themselves. Fine is my word for them. But whenever I
Yeah.
play a level and I think, oh my goodness, this level is Sonic Generations Speed Highway, I think, wow, this level controlled so much better in Sonic Generations and looked like a highway,
Oh no, no.
you know? And that's everywhere. Every level, I would, with chat, we'd say, okay, let's take bets. Is it going to be Green Hill or Chemical Plant? And then once we're into the level, we'd say, okay, what level is this that's being recycled? And so every single one of them, for me, just drew attention to how Sonic controls so much worse in cyberspace than he did in the games these levels are being taken from. Mm-hmm.
Huh. Yeah, no, I didn't notice that at all. Like
Right.
I did notice that like the movement was kind of jank because there was be sometimes in levels where I would try and do something and Sonic just wouldn't respond
He
to it.
turns
Like
insanely
jumping.
slowly.
Yeah. That's a huge one that I noticed. As well as like there's like a I'm gonna use the momentum word.
Okay.
There was a couple of times where I would try to go like jump and then move, and then Sonic was just like, nah,
Yeah.
I'm not moving because I don't have momentum yet or whatever. And that messed with me a couple of times. So I noticed the jank that I think you're noticing, and I noticed not so much the recycled assets as much. I don't have that frame of reference. Um, but even with all of that considered, I still preferred it over the open zone
Right.
gameplay.
Yeah, in context, that makes a lot of sense. The main thing that I liked about the openness of the open zone stuff was that finally we had a fresh take on Sonic level design and layouts. It was something I hadn't seen them do before, when the previous few games had all been playing it extremely safe, redoing what works. And Cyberspace being like the epitome of that.
What I mean, has a Sonic game really ever like
Hmm?
deviated too much from its formula, other than like, oh, I don't know, like it's that one game Unleashed? That's like a beat 'em up Sonic game.
It depends exactly how specific that formula is, right? Because sometimes the formula is like, I mean, it's all going to be, most of them at least, a series of levels where you go fast and do some platforming. But within that, there are ones where it's all about just hold a button to go fast and then react to oncoming obstacles. For other ones, it's about moving around an existing space just as efficiently as possible. Lots of games just with slightly different ways in which they play. They do similar things, get from A to B fast, but the way in which you do that varies quite a bit between the games. I mean, Sonic Lost World was a Mario Galaxy spin-off with, I say spin-off, rip-off, sorry, with parkour. It had parkour mechanics just on there. And so that's what they mean by like throwing around the formula. But all the most recent games were specifically you're in a pretty linear level, you hold X to boost, you dodge oncoming obstacles, you hit shortcuts if you find them, and you hit the end. And it had been stagnating a lot. And so seeing something else for me, that was the freshness.
So let me pose you this question then, because and I'll preface this, I don't know how to say that word, by saying that I appreciated the attempt to go kind of more open worldy, even though I feel like every game is doing that now. I still appreciated, a deviation from the formula. Do you think this game would have been better, speaking specifically from a level versus open zone, air quotes, perspective, if they had really just tried to hone in on one versus the other? And which one would you have preferred them to try and focus on? Because to me, I feel like they didn't really go all in or one or the other, and that's half the reason why I don't think the game is very consistent or ever feels like it really commits to something.
Sonic Team's kind of infamous for never going all in on anything. If they try something new, they'll always have... No, seriously though, it's like, if you have your like Sonic Unleashed, you've got the beat 'em up God of War thing going on.
Yeah.
But on the side of that, you also have his established Sonic going fast in 3D that works quite well. It was quite a new formula for that as well, but they'll never do something new without also including the thing that worked well previously in a very, very safe manner.
Well, so let's pretend Sonic Team decided to take more of a risk.
Yeah.
Would you have preferred a more radical attempt to restylize or redo traditional level-based design? Or would you have preferred it was like, no, I wish everything in this game was all open world and they had just done more with that and almost had like no levels at all?
This isn't going to be like for the game itself, but in a sort of more meta perspective, I think. But I'm doing hand motions. You can't see this. Okay.
I'll do some too.
Nice. Thank you.
So we can feel included.
Face acting too. I honestly would have wanted to see them try to lean even more into the open zone stuff, because we've seen Sonic in a level-by-level format done really well, and I will ask you to play like a 5-hour game after this if you're down for that.
Sure.
It's shorter and it's sweeter, but I want to see them really lean into something new and different and just do that as well as they possibly can, because Sonic Team is always stretched across too many things, and so all of them are always like rushed or half-baked most of the time. And you really feel it here where they kind of run out of budget. We'll get into that later, but I feel a lot of it just isn't realized as much as I don't think the team themselves wanted it to be. Can I just also, on that note, I will, because it's getting very negative, Mike says that this is kind of melancholy to listen to. It's clear that I really wanted to love this game but can't find anything to be super enthusiastic about. There is something that I could be super enthusiastic about.
I actually have one or two things I can be very, very positive on as well that I want to get into shortly after this too.
Ooh, he asks, but if they really lean into something new and different, will it be Sonic? I think absolutely.
That is a great question.
He's established himself as someone so utterly versatile. There will be fans saying, no, this isn't Sonic, this isn't the character I grew up with or something like that, but if they make him blue and fast and cool, that's Sonic, you know? And from there, just make the game really fun. If it's blue, fast, cool, and fun, then that's a good Sonic game.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I think the Mario Odyssey comparison your friend made was probably more apt than the Zelda one. I will trash this game for unapologetically ripping off a lot of that motif, but I think that's a good comparison though, where it's like Mario and Sonic are established enough characters that you can kind of put them in something. But I think for it to still be a Sonic game, you would have to have a emphasis on speed.
Hmm.
Mario is, you can do the crazy, combos of his movements and whatnot. But Sonic, I think, is just like if you make that thing go faster, you make it feel cool, like that'll be fine. Uh,
Right.
I do want to ask this question real quick before we go
Oh,
into the more
absolutely.
positive stuff. Reth asked, so do we generally recommend it?
You go
I
first.
don't. I definitely don't. I am not a Sonic fan. The game, I know just enough about game design to be annoying. I don't know enough on how to make a game, but it's just like I notice things that bother me more. Perhaps it's just because I'm kind of a cynical person by nature. The game was constantly just getting in its own way and bugging me. And it really took me out of it every time I was even remotely having fun with it. So I personally would not recommend it to answer that question.
Hmm. Before I answer, I just want to as well say, Mike says, "What if Sonic has self-doubt? Is he still Sonic?" I want to talk about characters kind of in
That's
depth
probably a good story.
when we
Yeah.
bring up story, but for this, honestly, as a Sonic fan, and a professional games designer who plays games very uncritically, I would say that I could only recommend about 2 Sonic games to a non-fan, like without some big asterisk.
Oh my god.
Like, every Sonic game has something where it's like, this game's really fun, just don't put too much focus on blank, or this game's great, but play it this way. Frontiers, I
You're
think...
a true fan.
Oh yeah, I am a true fan. Frontiers is that as well, right? It's a game with things I love about it, and lots that I like, but I would say to someone going in, only go in if you're interested, if you want to see what's going on, because as a game in itself, it is... Look at the reviews, it is good. It doesn't have to. Okay. Here's what we'll say.
I wouldn't use that as a good metric.
It passes the barrier for being a not bad video game, which is a very low bar. But
yeah, it gets
for a
C.
Sonic fan, that is celebration, man. That is cause to like pop out, get the good drinks. That is a Sonic game that is being generally well reviewed.
The Sonic fans have their own curved grading scale.
Exactly.
For
It's
Sonic
the
games,
Sonic Frontiers is an okay game. It's a good Sonic game. A Sonic fan would really like it. So there you go. To a non-Sonic fan, probably not.
Yes.
It's an okay game, but our standards are so low.
Yes, to those of us who live in reality, I probably would not recommend the game. But instead of me just constantly trashing it, why don't we actually talk about a section we both, I think, liked?
Ooh, let's do it.
I would love to talk about the music.
Oh, yes, let's talk about the music.
I want to talk about the levels specifically first, and then I want to talk about the boss music, because, oh my god.
Right, okay.
So I have my notes pulled up here. I will say, a lot of the music kind of sounded like Geometry Dash to me, if you've ever played Geometry Dash.
Yeah, I recently kind of got back into that, actually, and yeah, it would fit. So many of them would.
Yeah, and it's such a... And I don't hate Geometry Dash. I want to make that very clear. I played quite a bit of that.
For context, that's basically like a EDM rhythm game.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if it was a browser game first or if it was a phone game or what, but it's just got this very kind of techno, very like melodic. What's the term I'm looking for there?
I think I know what you're on about.
Digital, very repeatable sounding music that's good for getting into like a rhythm-based game, which is very different than any other Sonic game, because most of it, I swear, is almost like soft Christian rock is what most of the Sonic games are, which hang on there.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm like a fan of that type of music, but it's grown on me in a really weird way whenever I hear like old older Sonic games music where it's like, you can do it, you have the heart, like I love that stuff a lot, and to not have that in this game was initially very jarring for me. I was like, oh, that's a change. I guess we could say that was a risk they took. But I actually ended up liking quite a bit of it. I think I would still prefer the old stuff, but we're talking about the new stuff, so that's what we're talking about. The ones that stuck out to me the most there was this one called and maybe we could listen to some of the music. I don't know. We're the expert on if we could do that.
I could. If I played it on YouTube, it would play on the stream, but you'd need to listen to it yourself independently, unless you're tuned into the stream, and then you'd hear yourself and me twice.
Okay, fair enough. Overall, liked the level music. Thought it was, appropriate for what was going on. The ones that stuck out to me, there's this one called Chemical Plant Zone that I thought was just super funky.
That's there's
yeah. Oh, 2-stage 2-4. That's what it is.
2-2-4.
Which I'm realizing now as we're talking about it is horrible reference for anybody watching the stream because
Sonic
they're going to be like, yes,
2-4.
I remember 2-4 from Sonic Frontiers.
It calls itself
Quite
Hype
the stage.
Street.
Hype Street.
Cyberspace 2-4. I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah. And then I have one other one that I actually think you didn't like, but I actually liked. Let's see if we can get that one going first.
Okay, it was crashing. Here we go. Oh yeah, the sort of very, very texture heavy. I'm going to stop talking for a bit.
Yeah.
Right. I'll just turn it down and leave it running for a bit here. So
I like that type of stuff.
I do. I like it is a very, very cool texture to have going on in the background. A lot of the sorry, Mike just said Moot just be vibing, and hearing that come out of his mouth kind of sorry, that's cool, it's great. I think the cyberspace music for the most part does create a texture in the background that really does get you pumped, right? It makes you want to go first, it makes you want to do it. I think that as a Sonic fan, I've got really specific expectations for it again, which have slightly soured this. So when I hear Sonic music, I think the two main things that come to mind are that it has a very memorable melody, and a thing that's more specifically what I like is a very, very funky bass line. And this does have that. I don't know if it has that, but it doesn't have that memorable melody, and most of them don't. And I think that's also backed up by the fact the songs and themes don't have names, and the environments are all repeated. So there's no way...
Yeah.
So you could go into a Sonic Unleashed and say, wow, I love Dragon Road, that level is so cool and exciting, and the music really fits, but here, you're never going to say to someone, hey, did you like Cyberspace 2-2?
Yeah, if I hadn't written down what the track was, I would not have been able to tell you it at all, or frankly, could recall the track later on enough to say it was like, oh yeah, that's one of my favorite tracks in the game. I had to write it down.
So it definitely does its job as background music, and it does that quite well.
Yes.
I guess normally from a Sonic game, I just expect that to also be... what's the one that isn't background music? I just guess just
foreground
music. Yeah, just something
music?
you just put on. Yeah.
Well, did you like? So I think the other one that I liked that's a bit more forward, but is similar, is that it's that very first level you played. Did you like First Sky Sanctuary level 1-2?
I didn't dislike 1-2. But it was also one of the first ones that we heard from. Oh, sorry, that was gross. It was one of the first ones that we had revealed before the game came out, and so everyone put it on everything when talking about it, and for that, I found it a bit annoying. I'll put that one on as well.
Yes, I think we've had the other one playing for a minute or two now.
Yeah. Right. So this one has lyrics.
Just play it for 30 seconds.
I don't dislike it. Again, it works for the level, but I don't know.
It's a little more foreground, though. I can remember that one off the top of my noggin more than I can remember the other one we just played.
Let me just fade this out all smooth.
But yeah, that is the first one. You know, so when you go in expecting the Christian, almost rock sounding stuff, I was like, oh, that's a change.
Right. It's cool.
Do you have a track that you That's awesome. I'm really mature. Yeah, I have a job.
Right. I don't have a specific track from Cyberspace that really jumps out to me as brilliant. No.
No,
they're
just
all...
any track though.
Oh, I see. Honestly, I loved the open world stuff. I thought it was subtly beautiful. Let me find it. Kronos Island theme. I think it's the second movement.
I guess I'm just an ape. Like none of the. I think maybe I was just too irritated at the game to really notice like any of the open zone music. That might be what it was. I'm sure it was really nice. I'm sure you're about to school me and be like, but listen to this beautiful track.
I'm not here to school you. I mean, I'm not here to... I mean, if I can make you like it, that'd be great, but your opinions are your own. You did play the game and hear the music. But I think for me, this... It was when I played this game and thought, oh, they're playing it straight.
Okay, so I'm listening to this now. This just irritates me.
Does it?
Only because the music itself is good. You are absolutely right. It's just when I hear that, I think of Breath of the Wild. I think of the green hills, the blue rocks with the precursor technology, and I think of gentle, beautiful, soft piano.
But 1 minute in,
distance,
it gets unique. We have the violins, and that is what makes it. Listen to those harmonies.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That is different. It's just anytime a game like reminds me of another game, it just makes me think, oh well, is this game different enough from this game to really make me appreciate this as much? And the music, I will definitely give it to you, is different, but it just kept reminding me of what I thought was a better game, which was Breath of the Wild, and that kind of kept pulling me out. But purely from this own piece's standpoint, yes, I do enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Michael's comments, which I do agree with. This music, it does not fit with the action that's happening of Sonic running around fast and beating stuff up.
No, it doesn't. And that goes to my point of the game being very tonally inconsistent. Like, it's so weird, like, the choices this game makes. And speaking of tonally dissonant, this is a great segue into how hard the boss music goes.
Whoa, doesn't it just? All right, what are you putting on? Find Your Flame?
Oh my god, you can pick any of them. I think so. Talking about tone and talking about music, you have this soft music playing while Sonic is running around, which doesn't really fit. And then you get into a boss fight, and then it becomes like Metal Gear Solid Revengeance all of a sudden, just like rules of nature. It's so good. That music goes so hard.
Wyvern theme.
Literally put on any of them. I like all of them.
We want break through it all. Yeah.
Like, so I think the first one, right? Yeah, the first one is nuts.
So you've just been running through this almost reflective, quiet thing, and you fight the boss, you turn into Super Sonic, and suddenly...
This literally is just Metal Gear Solid Revengeance. Like, it's giant mechs, and then just the screaming. Oh my god, the screaming kills me.
Isn't it? Yeah. It says, like, again, it's the playing it straight bit, while also just doing whatever the hell it wants. And that's the thing I genuinely appreciate about this game. It just... Whatever it does, like, actually go all in. So when it says, I want our boss fights to go hard, it puts full-on metal in there, and it turns you into Super Sonic, and it throws them at you.
Well, so here's what I would say as a counterpoint to that. When it went that hard the first time, I instantly was just like, oh my god, I wish the entire game was this. I wish the whole game was just this, like, balls to the wall ridiculous. And then you settle your boss fight, so it's like, whew, that was tough. And then it goes back to playing like piano music, and I was just like, it's never gonna be the same. It's now that I have seen like the two extremes this game exists in, I just can't it's hard to flip back and forth between them so suddenly.
But isn't it just so thematic of the game as a whole that every aspect of it, including the music, is just everywhere? It's all over the place.
I would say it's thematic. Hang on, is that background music still going?
Sorry, I'll turn that off.
Yeah, I know we keep getting distracted.
I like it. I like music.
No, I know. It's I think that's a weakness though for me, is that if you want to sell an experience, you need to kind of keep the player in whatever experience you're in. Like you can break from it every now and then, don't get me wrong. But there's a difference between unexpectedly transitioning into something that's kind of wonderful and then just kind of oscillating between the two versions of the game that I think maybe the developers wanted to make and just never really feeling like you understand what's going on.
I see that,
It's a
but
really rough transition for me. Don't get me wrong, again, that music
Mhm,
goes
mhm.
nuts. I love it.
I do want to
But it's
actively like
just
counterpoint that though. In
go
that
ahead.
I think that wouldn't it get kind of just exhausting to have that for a full game? I think the issue is not with the fact that it transitions between these two things, but that the transition is so just abstract. No, sorry, what's the word? Just sudden. It just switches between them, and there's not much. There's not. There's just a bad transition. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. Is
So
also the fact that one of them you just straight up like a lot more than the others. I think if that quiet, reflective bit sold itself better and that transition was also done better, then I'd. But at that point, I'm just saying if the game was better, it'd be better.
here's what I would here's a functional answer to that, and then here's a slightly different answer.
Absolutely.
So functionally, it's fine if you transition from soft to hardcore ridiculousness,
Hmm.
but there still needs to be some type of bridge that connects those two things a little bit.
Right.
Like it doesn't make any sense to go from piano, softness to hardcore, I want to say like city metal, and have no real bridge between the two. It's just you jumped in hot water and now you've jumped in cold water.
Right.
And that to me is really jarring. To
Whiplash.
your point of, well, if that was just the whole game, it would be too much. I would just say make a shorter game then.
Yeah. Fair.
You don't need to make a long, like that's a mistake I think AAA games make tons
Oh yeah.
lately over the past 5, maybe decade. It's just like our game needs to be really long. It's like, no, you could just make like a couple hour game that just goes hard as hell and it will be awesome. Which again is kind of, I don't know how long Metal Gear Solid Revengeance is,
It's about
but
five
that's
hours.
kind of what that is. I think it's about 5 or 6 hours. It's just ridiculousness for what you can probably do in 1 or 2 sessions, and it's amazing. It's an amazing game. So no, I wouldn't get tired of it. It's just
Right. Just
it's that switching.
make it shorter and sweeter. And again, the like very few Sonic games that I can recommend to people like wholeheartedly do that. Obviously, they don't go balls to the walls like that music does, but what they do is they get their specific style of play and their energy and what they're doing, and they do it really well, and they don't do it for very long. And then you can come back to it and do it again.
Yeah, it's just it goes back to
Right.
inconsistency in the soundtrack and the level design and everything. Um, I will say though, when those boss fights came on and the music started playing, I did have fun. I had so much fun. Like just the music shift and everything. Like I was in. Like the game had me. I was like, yep, okay, this part I like. I like this part a lot.
Hmm.
However,
Oh,
the actual mechanics of some of those boss fights did irritate like the hell out of me. Do you want to switch to talking about that for a minute, or would you like to
uh, I think we
wrap up
can.
this
I think we
point?
can. Though, yeah, no, because my next point is about just how the bosses hit hard. Yeah, so I'll just say that when I finished that first boss, I do remember specifically saying, like on stream, just thank you, Sonic. You did it. You made me happy. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that was I think definitely one of the high points of the game for me
mhm.
was any of the boss fights, though they were also extremely frustrating at times. Like the first one was fine. Um, well, let's talk specifically about open world bosses, and then I'll kind of talk about
Right.
story bosses because the story bosses are cool. I like them the most. They are very linear.
Oh yeah.
Um, they are
They're
extremely, extremely linear. It's basically just a quick time event sequence that sometimes breaks, and then you have to like restart the whole boss fight. But they're overall enjoyable. I'm doing the reverse of what I just said I was going to do. Occasionally, they put you in a weird loop, or they don't really explain like how to fight the bosses very well. It's just like I don't know, you figure it out. I'm like, oh, okay. Like there's that one boss that has like the giant saw blades that they throw around, and I was confused on how to fight that thing for like 2 minutes. Maybe I'm just stupid, but that was just me. The open world bosses I largely hated. I think I hated every single open world boss that there was.
Wow.
Yeah, it's yeah. All right.
No, I like
Do you
this.
want
This
me?
is a hot take. Go for it.
So I remember out of the information quarantine that we sort of put ourselves in while we were talking about this game, one of the few things I definitely told you is that there's this boss in the second
Is this the rail one?
open zone. It's the rail one. It's a boss where you basically have they have these like rings around it, and you have to grind on the rings and dodge like little bolts of energy that are coming at you, so you can damage it and do stuff to it. The problem is that the boss is so big and the camera placement is so bad that you can't like see where the little bolts of energy are coming from sometimes, and you just basically die and don't know why you died because you can't see them. So I just skipped that boss, which I'm happy you were able to do that.
Hmm.
But just every boss in the open world just felt really gimmicky to me. I encountered the problem a lot where I would try to cheese those bosses and be like, oh, if I run fast enough, then it can't knock me off whenever I do enough damage to it to reset its like animation and fight cycle. No, it would knock me away every time. I have seen speedrunners accomplish doing that because I guess they're just better at the game than I am. But every boss fight to me felt very much like run up, do damage, get smacked back down to the ground, run up it again, do damage, get smacked back down to the ground, do that 3-4 times. Okay, the boss is defeated.
Right. I think it does. It's the kind of thing that you can sort of wail on in a way that does feel cool, but it doesn't require you to, and you absolutely can, and it doesn't make you ever not just run up, mash attacks, get hurt, and then just do that again until you win, and that isn't fun. I do find there were some bosses, mini bosses, that I did genuinely like. I do agree that they weren't all great. There were some very mixed ones, but I found ones I really liked were the tower, which was like a series of spinning things stacked on top of each other. Take out one, they all fall down. Take out, and the reason is that you can start off by just fighting it and running around and drawing circles around to break it a bit at a time. But the stronger you get and the more moves you unlock and the more you learn about it, you realize that if you attack that thing from the top, you can skip all of those previous steps. And so it's a thing where the more you come across them, the more you actively get better at fighting them. And so you can start learning through them.
Does the game kind of inform you on how to do that, or is that just something you figured out you can do yourself?
It is a thing I
Because
just figured out. Yeah.
also figured that out, but I can't remember how.
Maybe I think there's a mission in the game where you have to defeat lots of them at once, and it's just impossible to do it the old-fashioned way. So it forces you to like run up them or something.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like the? I think of the two that I liked, the squid one I kind of liked because it was just cool to like get thrown up 1,000 feet into the air. But that one was super repetitive.
Squid's a funny guy.
Yeah, and then I liked the sand shark one. That one was actually kind of
Really?
cool.
The sand shark one's very low down for me because you see the boss, you go through a long ass quick time event, and then you fight it for a bit until it just disappears again, and then you have to go through that all again. I found it was so much just waiting for the enemy to let you attack it rather than making those openings.
Yeah, I think maybe it was the music or something that played that made me like it more. I don't remember what music it had necessarily.
They all had their own themes.
Yeah. It just any of the open zone bosses did not really care for. But the story bosses were cool. I did like them mostly because every single one of them just had like a banging soundtrack going with it. But they were very also kind of gimmicky, where it's just like this is something the game does a lot mechanic wise, I feel, where they introduce a mechanic and then it's like, cool, you will never use that mechanic ever again.
Which one are you thinking of here?
Okay. So, I mean, like, each boss kind of has their own unique-ish mechanics. Like, you're in supersonic mode for most of them, so I guess it's kind of a unique state anyway. But just, like, throwing the buzzsaws around kind of just felt like gimmicky-ish for the one boss that you have to fight in the volcano pit. There's the one boss fight where you're being chased by missiles. That was kind of annoying because I wasn't really clear on how to, like, do that or dodge the missiles other than just moving around the screen. And you're on a timer, too. So it's like, hey, you're invincible, Sonic, but you're on a timer. And then if you lose, we just reset you back down to, like, the lowest amount of rings we can give you, even if you had, like, way, way more. It just, I don't know, like, everything just felt very much like gimmicky is the word I want to keep using. Like, it's just very, do this for this section of the game and then forget it, and then it never really comes up again.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. I guess when I played, it didn't really get to me as much because the gimmicks were like simple enough that I wasn't really waiting to see them return. It was, parry the missile and then you can wail on it. And for that was enough. And for the throwing the buzzsaw at it, again, like, is there another situation where pointing a projectile at an enemy is like, is there more to that? Given that, how...
No, it's... Yeah. My complaint is not necessarily with the mechanic itself.
Okay.
It's just that the game has a habit of introducing stuff and then that's it. Like, it doesn't really come up later, or it doesn't get used in something else. It just constantly introducing things and not bringing them up later. It does it all the time. And I had a brilliant point I was just about to make, and then it just escaped me, and I'm hoping it comes back.
Did you
write
it
ran
down?
Away from me like Sonic. No, it was just like something that came up while we were talking about it. I know.
Let's see. Bosses, gimmicks, Wyvern, parry the missile, direct...
Ooh, parrying! Oh my god, why does this game have a freaking parry button? Why does it have a parry button? At what point in the design room were they just like, okay, what are we doing here? We have move fast, jump, spin. You guys played a FromSoft game recently? I'm not saying FromSoft invented parrying. That'd be a stupid take. But it's just like, why? I don't get it. I don't get...
I think
the individual mechanics on Sonic himself are... I don't understand them. I really don't understand what they're supposed to do. Why does this game have a parry button? It's so strange to me.
I think what weirds me out more is just with this, it is one where it's kind of, they did it and then they kind of chickened out. So you know that you can parry by just holding the button for as long as you want.
Oh yeah, I abused the hell out of that in every boss fight.
At one point, I'm sure that they really wanted some like challenging, in-depth combat for all of it. But then they realized that, Sonic's marketed towards kids and they're going to struggle timing the parry. So they made the parry last as long as you want. And from that, all of that probably spirals around. So with combos and fighting, you have all of these moves at your disposal, but they all do the same thing. Damn it, I don't remember what point I'm making. Either way, I like what's in there, but wish it was realized more, rather than wondering why on earth is it there. I think Sonic with a very movement-focused fighting style would be cool, and I would be down to see him fight more.
So, and I think that's going to bridge excellently into what I was just thinking about, which is for a game that markets its mechanics, this is the point where if I was editing a video, I would put a big, like, black screen with white text that said mechanics on it.
Okay.
For a game that markets itself as being a Sonic game, which is all about going fast and going as fast as you possibly can, pushing the game to its very limit, I feel like a lot of the mechanics are not necessarily built around that. Like, to bring up Mario Odyssey again, when you play Mario Odyssey, it's like, okay, here's like 6 different movements that you can do, and I don't think you can upgrade or expand your movement capabilities. I think Mario just comes set up with like his moves he can do, and then it's up to you to remix them and push them to its maximum potential. Sonic has a skill tree, and you artificially increase your speed by collecting little Deku Nut seeds. And again, the Zelda thing. Why are they the Deku?
No, they're not
Zelda? I don't know.
They're Cocos.
They're Cocos.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay,
see?
I see.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. One of them's tall and has a beard. Yeah,
and one of them's short and fat and makes you increase your speed one at a time, doesn't he?
One at a time! I have that in my notes. Oh my god. One at a effing time.
There is like a solid 5 minutes of one of my streams where it is just the entire game stops and I just chat and we talk and I occasionally press the A button for like multiple minutes just to increase my speed.
Yeah, I don't know if this counts as a mechanic, but just to connect what you're saying to another thought I have before we circle back to this really quickly. This game has terrible menuing. It's absolutely awful. Like every time you want to get into a menu or do anything, there's a cutscene. I assume that they did that to save on like space for the game so they can ship it to like different platforms and stuff. But like every action you do, animation that you need to skip.
You have to go to a level, for the animation to finish before you can press anything. For them.
Yeah, it's for a game that's all about speed. The game consistently puts up weird roadblocks in its way. which directly goes into Sonic, where it's like most of the stuff you learn how to do on Sonic is just like cookie cutter picking up abilities that don't necessarily push your speed. They're just like fighting combos.
That's the main thing I mentioned earlier, is with XP that you get from fighting enemies, you unlock more moves that you can use against the enemies. But all of the moves, their outcome is you do damage to them. Like, they're not fundamentally different in any way. The only reason you'd mix up the moves is for cool points. As soon as you find the one that does the most damage in the shortest time, you have no reason to do the other ones. And that really upsets me, because in this context, right, semi-open world, Sonic game, you could have these moves that you unlock give you more movement capabilities. You could Metroidvania it. You could lock off areas until you have enough speed or a particular kind of jump to get you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Build the world around the mechanics you're making.
I would even say, so I hadn't even thought about that. I was going to just say do the Mario thing of like give the player all of the stuff from the start, and then just as they get better at the game, then that's how the world opens up.
That works down well too.
Yeah, I mean, that's, if it's a movement-based thing, everything should be about the movement.
A game where your progression is a mastery of the mechanics. That's fantastic. I love that kind of thing.
Yes, it goes hand in hand. Game design.
Crazy.
I think what really makes all of like the core mechanics of Sonic feel really reductive is the fact that there's literally an upgrade you can unlock that just auto combos everything for you.
I assume that's for the kids, but it is there. And you can't fill out the skill tree without getting it.
Well, here's my complaint. Here's what I would say is I don't knock accessibility features in games because I think that's important. But if you wanted it to be an accessibility feature, then why does it cost like 50 points to unlock?
If you want it to be accessibility, why put it on the skill tree? Put it in the options.
Yeah. Also, why does Sonic have a skill tree? Why does that exist?
I think they wanted to give more depth to the fact that you're running around an open area doing very similar tasks over and over again, and progression is one way for that to feel rewarding.
Yeah, but I think that just makes it more... I think that just makes it support the argument that like the game doesn't really know what it's doing half the time, because it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of downtime in this. What do we want to put in the way to keep them kids interested? A skill tree? Sure. It's just, when you really dig into like the mechanics of everything, it's when you get into the nitty gritty of everything, it's when I just really start getting irritated at the game the most.
Right. I think that covers everything I had for gameplay mechanics. Oh, beyond, I guess, the way Sonic actually controls. The main thing that jumps out to me here is specifically the fact that you can customize it, which is kind of cool. But there is just a best way to do it. And the fact that, first off, you can customize it, and secondly, that the defaults are bad, means that the developers themselves gave you these options because they don't know how to make Sonic feel good.
I don't know if I would say that necessarily. I definitely will at least say
Maybe I'm saying this because in the last few games he hasn't felt good. Yeah.
I will say that I thought it was weird to give upgrade options when all I was ever going to do, and I assume all anybody was ever going to do, is just crank speed as much as they could.
Yeah. Set speed to max. Why would you do anything else?
Oh my god. Also, there's a setting in the settings that determines Sonic's maximum speed, and it is not set to the maximum by default.
Yeah. You click start. Did you click action style or high speed style?
Oh my god, I don't even remember.
Action style is for non-Sonic fans, so you probably click that. What that does is it sets your speed to low.
Yeah, no, I had to go back and change it afterwards. I just thought it flabbergasted me that was strange. Like, even a thing.
But I think once you have all those down, I do very much like how he controls. It's probably the best Sonic has controlled in a mainline game for quite a while. Yeah, the way he does in the open world. With the sort of tight turns, you're very much in control. Obviously, there are still weird bits of geometry you'll get stuck on, but you're moving very fast in an open space. I'll give him that.
Oh yeah, the world just randomly loading in while you're running in front of you.
Oh, the pop-in. Can we hold that for a second, though, I think?
Sure.
It's just that I do still, with all of that, have one thing that doesn't quite feel right. And that's just, if you let go of the movement stick, he stops instantly. And maybe that's just me.
Yeah, no, it's really weird.
Okay, because I was wondering if that's me like, oh, I want my momentum, but surely he should slow down over time if you let go of the stick.
Yeah,
Like, he
it's
doesn't even skid or anything. He just isn't moving anymore.
I think a skid would have been great. I
Yeah.
don't think like a full momentum thing would have been great because that probably would have been annoying from a player perspective. But yeah, just like one of those skids with the classic Sonic like noise that he
Yeah.
makes whenever he skids to a stop.
You can make him move like 1 or 2 meters more. That's never going to be an issue if you're moving that
Yeah,
fast.
that'll be fine.
Yeah.
You could get used to that too.
Right.
I do want to point out that someone had also an observation.
Oh, go on, yeah.
C4MD.
I think that's Cam Damon.
Ah, that'd be better. Yeah, I can't read.
That's okay.
Begged the question of, I'm not sure why they separated ways of leveling up with different Cocos. They could have just had one that did all of them. Yeah, that also annoyed me because usually they were on like opposite sides of the map. It's like, ooh, I'm gonna go upgrade. Let me just spend a minute or two running over here and then running over there.
I guess
That's
they're
super fun.
technically functionally different, in that with one of them you give them your speed pellets and your strength pellets, and then he upgrades your speed and strength. And the other one you physically choose which one you're going to upgrade. But it's a very minor difference. It isn't fundamental to anything, right?
It's just again inconsistent. Just a hodgepodge of ideas, and none of them are. I don't know. To me, it felt like, okay, we're making an open world game. Let's throw some level elements in there. Let's throw some RPG elements in there. Let's throw in, I don't know, just whatever idea we have on paper, and then just kind of mash it all together.
I feel like I have to say, I do still like this game, just to reassure everyone.
Oh, I don't. It's fine.
Yeah,
like, I know you're defending it and say you like it. I definitely don't. I
just felt like I've been almost entirely negative as well, so I just need to clarify.
Well, it's fun looking at like the little oddities. Like I could probably pick apart one of my favorite games and come up with a list of things that I didn't find interesting or good, but
you should do that in a 20-minute video.
Yeah. Oh, wow, good job. Yeah, I should do that with a game called Subnautica and its sequel Subnautica Below Zero.
Make sure to check out that one when it comes out on Otrill Hawk's channel.
That'll be my first like video essay I've ever done. I'm pretty excited about it.
Right.
So I had a whole bunch of notes for mechanics, but I think we kind of covered them already, which is just like, it's weird.
Because I'm all about how characters control. That's like the thing I focused on in uni. Just making things that control super nice. I hate him in cyberspace!
What about that specifically?
So, it's that he accelerates weirdly. He turns super slowly. When you boost, he instantly slaps to a new direction, but because you can't turn, you're stuck in that direction. When you jump, you slow down. When you jump again, you move in a different direction and slow down more. On 2D, your whole speed, everything goes to an absolute cruel. If you're not boosting, you may as well be walking. When you jump on a rail, you slow down and you feel it, and you land on the rail and you're moving fast again, but then you just... I'm sorry. It doesn't feel good. It just...
No, you're right.
Is it okay? Here's
a lot of that wrote down.
The most fundamental part of it, if you want it in one sentence, is he is slow in 2D. He just isn't fast.
I would say I would add on to that that.
How can you not make him fast? It's a number.
I'm gonna use the word inconsistent again.
Okay, no,
I think
it could be our theme.
Ring my doorbell.
Oh, do you want to get that?
I don't. I feel like my roommate is home.
Okay. Say guys, did you know that subscribing to Moot T channel Real is completely free and costs you nothing? By the way, if you don't like the channel, you can just unsubscribe, so it's worth doing anyway. Did I mention that only 100% of my viewers are subscribed? Damn it, I was hoping you'd be back by now. Kind of running out of stuff. Oh, hello.
I'm just gonna ignore whoever is at the door, because nobody should be knocking on my door. I don't have a package or anything coming. So, whatever. I will deal with that later, I guess. We got more important things to talk about.
I've convinced people to subscribe.
Yeah. No, so all the things you just said about mechanics in the levels, yeah, as much as I did like the levels more than the open world, I definitely noticed that, and I definitely nearly smashed my controller at least once or twice doing a level, because I was like, that's not what I want you to do, Sonic. That's not what I asked you to do.
For me, I think that's the fundamental difference. Even though the levels might be more tightly designed and better, like, objectives and things than the open world, in the open world, Sonic controls good, and in cyberspace, he doesn't. And for me, that is it. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think it's just they took whatever they made for the open world, and then we're just like, okay, now put that in cyberspace, and then it doesn't work well.
And it just seems so weird, because I get maybe because they don't want you cheesing times with different settings, but just let you keep your control. right? Just control the same in cyberspace as you do in the open world.
Yeah, I think if the game had a set series of what you could do move wise, then that would kind of make the whole experience better. Just but that then makes it a lot more of like a skill based kind of okay, well here's your 5 moves, push them to the max, and then I guess it's not as accessible for everybody, which I still would prefer that game anyway, but yeah, I don't know, it's weird.
One last tiny thing, I don't think you'll comment on it because you might not have even known it existed. The drop dash, that's a move that was introduced in Sonic Mania, and fans loved it. It's like the spin dash, but you charge it in the air. That is in Sonic Frontiers, but you have to jump, double jump, and then hold a third time, and when you hit the ground, you'll launch. And that does include that you'll speed up when you go down a hill, so that momentum's there. But it's useless, hard to pull off, and it's definitely just added because that's a move Sonic has that people like. I don't know. It's nice to see it, but I wish
you could do that.
I wish it was there.
I never used it.
Right.
No.
Wish it did something.
Well, so let's go. So did you end up? This is a bit of a hard transition here, but did you end up liking the story? Because I don't. I'm learning, having talked to you a little bit about it on the side, that I don't think I played the game correctly. So my impressions of the story are very skewed. So, did you enjoy the story?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Less so for the events of the story that happen, and more so that it gave me characterization for a lot of the side characters that I feel had been severely missing or done dirty in recent games. There was a change of writers between the last few Sonic games and this one, and the new one had been working on the comics recently. And you can tell in the way they characterize the like Tails and Knuckles and Eggman and even Sonic. Not Amy, she's nothing. But seriously, I'll get into that later. But they give them kind of what we've all been kind of hoping for. So I'll focus on Tails. I think he's obviously he's like the little brother character. Literally, you give your controller to your little brother to play him in the older games.
Right.
In Adventure, the first Sonic game with a real story, with like a series of events, not counting Sonic and Knuckles, because, you know, it's technically a story, but it's not really. In this one, Tails has his own little sub-story where he learns to, like, realize, I'm not going to be dependent on Sonic, I'm going to go my own way and swallow my fear and actually fight. And for a while he goes with that, and he becomes his own character. But he gets very, very, very flanderized in recent games, where he's smart, full stop. There's a point where it all bubbles over in Sonic Forces, the one before this, where an enemy that he defeated a more powerful version of by himself turns up, and he literally tucks his tails between his legs and cowers and calls for Sonic to help. And fans just say, what on earth have you done to my boy? And so in this game, they quite directly address that and have him be saying, like, hey, am I, like, useful? And they reassure him and they reestablish him as a character. And just to quickly gloss over the other ones, Sonic's back to a person who's genuinely trying to do good, who just enjoys doing that, rather than a snarky asshole. Eggman is kind of trying, is not as in the limelight, but I really, really loved how proud he is of a father of Sage. The little audio docs were lovely for that. And Knuckles was, they brought back his actual rivalry friendship with Sonic, rather than him being dumb and or militant. I don't even know where militant came from. He never had that. So he's still
okay.
I'll
got respond to that in a minute.
Yeah. He had a character. That's my point. I get it might be a low bar, but I felt that these characters that had been done so dirty in the last few games had characters that I didn't dislike. I would go as far as to say I really enjoyed watching on screen, especially Sonic and Knuckles together. Amy sadly seems to be beyond saving. When she was introduced, right, her whole purpose was latch onto Sonic and spew out hearts, and Sonic goes, ew, girls. And when that fell out of fashion...
Ew.
Yeah, right? That falls out of fashion, and so they try to find a new personality for her. And it seems that no one's been able to come up with anything beyond level-headed and kind. And that's it. And I feel like they've tried to give her something, but it didn't really come out. Made most obvious by when I streamed the game, we ended up, between me and chat, kind of coming up with our own pretend character arc for her, where she loves murdering babies. It was more fun. But, yeah. So
That's awesome,
yeah, in
actually.
summary,
I wish I had thought of something like that while I was playing.
it's more fun. It's easier when you're in a room full of people, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So in summary, the story itself is fine. I don't mind it. I don't dislike it. It does what it needs to, but I liked it for the characterization. I thought Sage was a great addition as well. I really liked her.
Okay.
So it's all
That was
about the
very
characterization for me. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I put a lot of stake into characterization as well. That's like I think I could watch I think that's why I still continued to watch The Walking Dead all the way up until the end.
Mm,
It's like this is trash, but I'm invested in these character arcs.
right.
My impression of the story is I did not like it.
Okay. Okay.
I did not like it at all. I will say that I did enjoy the Tales plot. I liked that a lot. That was like the first time where Sonic's kind of new vibe
Hmm.
fit with another character. Because I haven't played a Sonic game in a while, like I've said, but Sonic's whole kind of motif in this game is just like he's like the older brother kind of
Right.
archetype, I guess. And having that thing with Tails is like, I want to be independent. I don't want to have. I need to not be just a side gag. I liked that. I thought that was done well. The dialogue made me cringe a little bit, as the whole story's dialogue basically made me cringe constantly. But I thought it worked well there. I didn't really think. I'll go through the characters kind of like you
Okay.
did.
Okay.
I didn't really think Knuckles was very interesting, just because Knuckles sort of seemed the way that Knuckles seems to act all the time to me, someone who doesn't
Hmm.
engage
Hmm.
a lot with Sonic. Uh, I thought it was funny that, to your point of like characterization, Amy had hearts, Tails had little wrenches,
Oh
and
yeah.
Knuckles had little militarized dudes.
What were the
Oh
little
no,
medals? What were
yeah,
they?
medals. They were little medal. They were military medals.
But I mean, like,
Like
why?
100. Because okay, this is gonna get into the story, I guess.
He's not.
Um,
Sorry. Yeah. No. Go on. This is
I
your
don't know if
section.
it's
You go.
like his medals of honor or if it was like the precursors people's medals of valor or whatever it was, but I was like, ah, yes, Knuckles,
Mm.
man, military duty. Ah, yes. Didn't really pay too much attention to their section, but I definitely saw the rivalry stuff.
Hmm.
And then I paid even less attention to Amy's section. I don't understand really what that was supposed to be about. I had a really hard time focusing with it. I did like Sage. Um, as the character, I could see from the beginning kind of where the story was going in regards to like Sonic's influence on her, which,
Hmm.
that's not a terrible thing to be able to see something coming.
He's a
I liked
paragon.
them interacting. I liked seeing Eggman talk to Sage. I don't know why he made a little cyber daughter. Uh, don't under. I don't know. Like
I
I just
can
was like, all
explain,
right,
but I
interesting
assume you
choice.
don't. You're not actually asking. You're just describing the
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
getting into that exact question, I don't really know what the story was about.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
didn't do the fishing mini game very much, which I guess has like audio logs that describe Eggman's relationship to his little like computer daughter. I just kind of played through the game without picking up any of those. So to me, the story of the game was I would do a story section with one of the side characters, get a cut scene that showed like this ancient war that was happening, and then you would just abruptly cut into cyberspace where Eggman is like, I need pictures of Sonic, and then like you just would cut away from that like 5 seconds later and go back to the open world. So I was just thoroughly confused on what their involvement with the whole thing was.
Hmm.
So story wise, I don't really know what was going on. The only thing that I really liked was the Tails and Sonic aspect, and then no, I liked the Sage thing too as well.
Right.
But I could not tell you what the game's story was like actually about, other than just like there's an obscure alien threat.
They did lock a lot of the actual story behind like optional dialogue and audio logs, which that's not great storytelling if you don't know what's happening, right? That stuff should be there to enrich what's already there.
I was yeah, I actually don't mind games that do audio logs if it's enriching what
No, I
is
like the
already an
audio
interesting
logs.
story. Yeah, it's if I think it's great content if you're playing a game like Dead Space or something where your objective is very clear It's like, go get this thing, and then here's some dialogue to tell you about what's happening
Hmm.
while you're exploring and doing other stuff. I don't like it when key information is locked behind audio logs unless it's like clearly upfront, like a needed game mechanic. This game, it was like, hey, while you're fishing, maybe pick up an audio log. And I was like, cool, optional content. I'm good.
Hmm.
And then just like moved on. And then I finished the game and I had no clue what was happening.
Right. Most of those logs just followed like Eggman figuring out what he's doing in cyberspace and also developing his actually caring for his little robot AI. So that's all. The audio logs were entirely just like Eggman characterization. But the actual plot, what was going on there, quite a bit of that was on just like, talk to characters in the world once you've collected so many of their special tokens. But in the like non-essential ones.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I didn't actually miss as much as I thought I did then.
No, a
'Cause
lot
I
of the
was
story
just...
was just like very. So like at the end, right? The spoilers for a Sonic game. You fight the last Titan, Sage pilots it, and then you blast through a moon, and then Sage dies in the moon. That was what they were alluding to the entire time, but didn't make clear. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just smacking my lips because I
Oh,
was just remembering the moon scene, and I was like, yeah, I wasn't really expecting that to happen at any point during the game, but okay.
hmm. So what that is, that is the alien threat. So the actual story, right? Sonic wakes up on a weird island. There are Cocos there, which are the souls of the ancients, which were aliens that came here before fleeing an extremely powerful alien invader. The moon is that extremely powerful thing they were fleeing from, and then you fight them at the end. Fun fact, that boss fight is a bullet hell and only accessible on hard mode.
So, interesting. So, why was Eggman? Why can Sage That's another Metal Gear thing, actually. Why can she go all like Psycho Mantis and take control over the giant
She was
mechs?
an
Is it?
AI built by Eggman specifically to take over cyberspace, because he was like, oh, the Chaos Emeralds are here, there's some powerful tech, let's go take it all over. Builds an AI, tries to take it over, gets sucked in. Uh, that AI takes form in cyberspace and then does that. There is a lot of hand waving at that point, though.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of just hand waving in the
Mm.
game in general. It's like, I don't know, this thing, and you're like,
The
oh,
end
okay.
comes so out of nowhere.
Yeah, I thought it was like cool that we brought the Titans back online to be like, all right, now we're gonna go have a cool moment and we're gonna go fight the final boss with the relics of the past. But then it's just a QTE event, and I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
hitting X really, really fast, and I'm like, I'm so engaged. Hits X. Where's my controller? Like, I don't know if you can hear this, but just like I'm so engaged in the story.
Yeah, we hear it, we hear it. Right. Cool. So that's I don't have much more to say on the story. The story took a backseat. The characterization was good. That's most of what I have to say about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would share your positiveness about characterization. I would not share it as strongly, but yeah, I mean,
Right.
Tails. Basically, my takeaway is Tails is the best character in the game.
Hmm.
Next, only to Eggman, who I wish I saw more of, because I just think Eggman characters are generally pretty funny.
Mike
Like
Pollock
the
as a
people
voice
that
actor
play
is
them.
so fantastic.
Yeah, he seemed like he was having fun with it. I wish I had picked up those audio logs, I guess, so I could have heard him more.
He's got a
But
lovely. Yeah.
yeah, I don't have too much more notes wise. But if you want to talk about other sections, I probably have thoughts.
Yeah, I've got a few final thoughts and one or two on just that weren't really underneath the other ones. I thought that the zones themselves were kind of cool. They were pretty, but I really wish they were more imaginative. Also, the fact the final two zones were just the first one again. But, I posted a dumb meme about it, but, grass, desert, volcano, grass, grass. The very realistic environments probably don't help there. Sonic, I think his gameplay and his vibes really thrive under a very exaggerated kind of environment. You can render it realistically, you can texture it realistically, but you want it to be something that you look at and is immediately memorable.
Yeah, it's like the Sonic '06 thing, right? Isn't that the
Mm.
game where he like talks to like regular sized people?
Yeah, it's definitely that's the like real world one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to have a game that is taking itself fairly seriously, and then your main character is like a blue hedgehog hedgehog, whatever, with giant red shoes. You can do it, but it's odd to me. It's an odd choice.
Right. Okay, I think literally just one footnote before I have like actual closing thoughts. Fast travel, it's instant if you do between levels. Sorry, no, on the same open zone, fast travel's instant, which is cool, but I don't think it's worth the pop in.
I don't. Oh, the fast travel being those like rails you can grind on, right?
No, I mean when you like, if you go fishing, you can collect a scroll that you can then use to teleport to Elder or Hermit Coco.
Oh, yeah, I never bought that.
Ah, right. Yeah, that's, you literally press it and then you're there. No loading screen, just a fade to black and a fade out again. So you can instantly fast travel. That's there.
It's just cool. I guess that means the developers knew it was annoying for you to have to run across the whole map just to get to one spot. So they were like, I don't know, you can fish it. Also, why are the fish are like hyper realistic as well, which I thought
God,
was
yeah.
funny.
That's just funny.
So
I like
strange.
that. I'm into that, honestly.
I don't even hate it necessarily. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Here's a high-res an eel.
Right, do you have closing thoughts then?
I would say my comprehensive view of Sonic Frontiers as someone who is not really a Sonic fan is it is full of good ideas that aren't really executed on very well at all. And then it's unfortunately also filled with just a lot of bad ideas. It constantly flip-flops between things. It's very inconsistent in basically every aspect of the game, from its music to the story to the gameplay. It's never outright bad, but it's never just consistently good. And that is kind of a weird experience for me.
Okay, right, yeah. So I will say that Sonic Frontiers, it is a very, very weird and up and down game. It's a very, very inconsistent one. It really met my expectations in some areas, lets me down in others, surprises me with things I didn't even know I wanted, and frustrates me to no end with others. It does really well in some areas, and I think that is something that I can commend it for. If Sonic Forces, which came before it, if that was a game that like didn't have anything worthwhile in it, Frontiers has actual flaws that you hate rather than a lack of anything good. And for that, as a Sonic fan, that's worth praising. Congrats, you have actual flaws that are worth being mad over. It's an overly ambitious mess instead of a safe nothing burger.
Fair enough.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's it. We're
How
done.
do you normally end your streams?
Normally very, very abruptly.
Okay, so just like, it wouldn't be 2 out of 2 to just end it mid-sentence while I'm talking or something like that?
I think so, like that, but I'm not going to do that yet. Because there are exactly 2 Sonic games that I would wholeheartedly recommend to people. And that's Sonic Mania and Sonic Generations. And both of them are glorified highlight reels. They're both a compilation of things that Sega have already done well, polished up a bit, but they're both short and sweet and very good. Generations is that modern boost style, just done very cleanly and well with actual level design and platforming and great spectacle, memorable music. And Mania is the, like, spiced up treatment for all of the classic games.
So which one did you think I should play? I think you mentioned that earlier.
I want to see you play Sonic Generations. It's the 3D one, because then you'll go, oh, cyberspace was bad. and I'll laugh.
Okay. That's fair. I'll have to look into how to play that. I don't have like a Wii or anything. I don't know what system it came out on.
Right. So, yeah, that now really is everything. And I'm going to